Welcome to the Vault, where Central Illinois' best kept stories are held.
Welcome in, Ryan.
Thanks for having me in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate having you, man. Well, tell people about you. Give us your story.
Sure. So I'm Ryan McCrady. I'm president and CEO of the Springfield Sangamon Growth Alliance. And the Growth Alliance has been around only about 6 years. And we are what is commonly known as an economic development corporation. So if you go to other communities around the country, you'll hear about an EDC. Mm-hmm. And that's commonly what they're called. We have a snazzier name because we have a great marketing person. And the Springfield Sangamon Growth Alliance gives us some geographic identity in our name, which is really important in the work that we do. Because there's a lot of Springfields around the country. We want to do that. So we do economic development across all of Sangamon County. And we're a public-private partnership, so we're not a unit of local government. We do receive funding from local governments like the city and the county and Mass Transit District and Airport Authority and Water Reclamation District. We have about 28 private companies that provide funding to us also to do our work of economic development. The question I always get is, what is economic development? And there's a lot of people that think it's me flying around the country, sitting courtside at NBA basketball games with developers.
And it is, right?
Awesome. I haven't had that opportunity yet. Some people might get it, but I haven't. But there's really three kind of legs to the stool in economic development. And the first is, and it's just like your work in banking, right? Business retention. It's easier. You want to keep those customers you have.
Yep.
We want to keep our businesses that we have in our community. Yep. And the next is business expansion. You know, it's easier to grow a customer than it is to acquire a new one. Customer acquisition has a significant cost, whether it's in economic development or in the private industry. So if we can take a business and take them from 5 to 10 employees, or 15 to 20, or 50 to 100, that's a really good economic return for our community, because you're probably not building a new road, new sewer line, new water line, right? So the return to the economy is almost 100% when you do something like that. And then, of course, the third leg of that stool is business attraction. And that is where we go out and sell the community to our targets. Our targets typically are what are called site selection consultants. Okay. So a lot of individuals think that we target specific companies and reach out to them. And if we hear about a company looking, we'll do that. But site selection consultants are consultants that companies hire when they're trying to figure out where they want to locate. And the reason they do that is private companies don't want their competitors to know where they're looking. So private companies don't necessarily want me to know they're looking, because people like me drive them crazy, wanting to talk to them all the time.
So they stay anonymous for a certain period of
time.
So
they want the anonymity that exists that way. And so they'll reach out to this. So if I build a deep relationship with a site selection consultant, I'm building a relationship indirectly with their entire portfolio of clients. Okay. So it's also a better ROI for us on business attraction. So we spend primarily our attraction efforts are through getting to know site selectors, going to conferences, meeting with them at them offices, sending them sites, sending them positive news stories about the community. Our Thrive and SPI marketing campaigns, another thing the Growth Alliance does. We use that marketing platform, and then also when we target a site selector, that platform, that foundation of the messaging is the same. The actual message varies based on the target. So if I showed someone in this town an ad I sent to a site selector, it really probably wouldn't mean much to them. Sure. It wouldn't add value. So it's, the nice thing about digital marketing is you can be really strategic and specific about what target sees what ad. And so we reach out that way and do that work of economic development. But I'll tell you, one of the most important things we do is just supporting the businesses that are here today, and then supporting local governmental policymakers and helping them understand, one, what the business community thinks, and two, what kind of policies they may want to consider adjusting based on the experience of the business community. The good thing about Springfield is that both parties are very open to that work. We get a good reception either way on that, and it's going pretty well. We've been around 6 years. I've been in my role 4 years. So I came here May of 2020. There wasn't anything else going on in the world. Right, that was a perfect time to change jobs and move. But we moved back to Springfield May of 2020. I grew up in Divernon, basically Springfield. My wife grew up in Springfield. Spent about 13 years in Decatur. I ran the city of Decatur, and then I ran their Economic Development Corporation. Before that, I was county administrator here in Springfield. So I was just like Ryan McCrady is in that role now, chief appointed official of county government. Before that, I worked in the sheriff's office as a bean counter. I was the comptroller business manager. I was not a law enforcement person. And then when we really throw the calendar back, we go back to the days where I was a banker.
Nice. Nice. You made it out. Congrats.
That's right. There I am back in the vault.
Yeah.
Right. But so that's basically my career. My wife is a developmental therapist. So she's self-employed, and she goes out into the homes of children ages 0 to 3 that have developmental delays and does therapy with them and the family. And it helps them move forward, which is a very rewarding job for her. Our oldest son lives in Decatur. He works for Dynagraphics and is also a licensed home inspector. That's his own business. Our daughter is going to be living in Rockford, just got her master's in social work. And our son Clifton is he's a mover for Beacon Moving, Springfield Sangamon Storage here.
You kept them pretty close. Good job.
Not too bad. It's still early.
Yeah, that's true.
20.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
But very, very proud of all three of them. And that's basically a lot about me in a nutshell. So.
I think through that story, I just figured out who gets the courtside seats, and it's definitely the site selector guy.
That's right.
That's who gets the courtside seats.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so, that's funny.
Yeah. I don't get it, but that person might.
So first thing that I think of is the projects you've worked on. I know you kind of have to take a long-term approach. There's a long sales cycle, if you will, with the projects you work on. What are some that you're proud of that you guys had some involvement in since you've been the CEO?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of them, and you're right, the sales cycle in my job is really long.
Yeah.
It's years, not weeks or months.
Right.
And so from the first time the phone rings, it's not unusual for it to be 3 years before a groundbreaking.
Sure.
It's just the nature of it. And that's because even though the site selector is calling me, they have a long client list behind them that they're trying to work through. And if it's a publicly traded company, that's their client, then that sales cycle can even extend even farther. So there's a lot of things to deal with. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. This job is just a lesson in persistence.
Okay.
And it's about being politely persistent. So doing what I call "Do you still love us?" phone call. So if you're working on a project, haven't heard for a while, I'm like, "Hey, still like us? Are we still doing this?" Some recent projects that people probably know a lot about are, of course, the Shield Sports Park at Legacy Point.
Big one.
I'm really proud of that project because it's something the community's wanted for over 20 years.
Right.
And it was really important. And we had a really unique niche opportunity with the location next to Shields.
Yeah.
That's a unique opportunity. And it's also a lesson in sometimes the things you don't get create bigger opportunities later on. So you might know that when
excellent point.
Legacy Point was first developed, the thought was that's going to be a big retail center, outlet stores and everything else. What we didn't realize was the financial collapse of 2009, e-retail, online retail, what that was going to do to the retail market. We had a pandemic that none of us expected, and so retail's taken quite a hit then. But since that didn't happen, that land was available there.
Right.
And there's a lot of people to thank for the project, and we did work a lot on it. But none of what happened is really without the really tough votes that the city of Springfield had to take. And this spanned two administrations, the Langfelder and the Bush administration. They both had things that had to get done, two city councils. But then the local governmental bodies that stepped up too. So every one of them, the school district, the park district, the county, obviously the city, the airport authority, all those agreed to waive or abate the property taxes on just the sports complex, just the fields, not the rest of it. But that was really important for it to allow them to run competitively and to be able to bid on projects. So it took a long time. You think about the amount of time it took. I met with the developers about this project the day after I started at the Growth Alliance.
No way.
So my first day was May 11th, 2020. I met with them on May 12th, 2020.
Wow.
Oh.
And they said, this is what we think we want to pull off. And we broke ground in September of 23.
Man, there you go. There's a sales cycle.
Right, it is. Yeah. But it was important that we took that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because my job's not to sell elected officials on supporting things. My job is to provide all the information so they can make an informed decision. They're not always going to agree with us, and that's okay. But I wanted to make sure they have all the information. This project was very complicated to finance. It had public financing. It had government bonding. It has private financing in on it. I mean, it's one of the days where I was glad I wasn't the banker, because I'm like, man, if I was still a credit analyst looking at this thing.
And it's a massive amount of money on top of it.
A lot of money. But I appreciate all the local, financial institutions that stepped up. And this is something like, there's a lot of people involved, and it really is a house of cards. One of those cards comes out of this thing, and the whole project doesn't happen. So it really, really took everybody that got involved. Shields purchased the naming rights. What Springfield Clinic did, a number of local businesses that are financial supporters or investors. I'm super proud that our workers are building this. So our skilled tradespeople are out there working, doing it. That's really cool to talk about. So big project, big public exposure, right?
Yeah.
So we're really proud of that. And I believe this is going to be a transformational point in the history of our community. So it's kind of like what I call bookmarks in your life, where you say, oh, this happened before this bookmark, or this happened after this bookmark. I think this is going to be a bookmark in our community.
It's a great way to put
in a
it.
good way. But we have other projects that aren't as well known, that are a lot bigger investment. So one of them is what's called the Double Black Diamond Solar Development. This is located in a very, very rural area in southwest Sangamon County. This is a 4,200 acre solar development. The surface of Lake Springfield is 4,100 acres. So it's the equivalent of covering the surface of Lake Springfield with solar panels.
Wow.
Probably a $700 million project.
Man.
Once again, guess who's building that? Our folks. That's something that we brag about when we go to site selectors and say, oh, you have a complicated project, something unique. Guess what? We have skilled people that are talented and can build that. And they say, well, give me an example. We have them here. So that's really important for us to be able to say that.
That's really cool.
So pretty much on any given day, there were 400 of our local tradespeople working out there.
Man.
6 days a week putting that together. They're close to finishing it. They should be lighting. What they do is they call that lighting it up. Means energizing that whole development here very, very soon. And it's very, very exciting development. There's lots of debate about prime ag ground, whether it should be in farm production of solar. I don't think that's on our list to talk about.
All the time,
Thank you. So it's a sticky issue. I think personal property rights are important.
Yeah, of course.
That's what I go on. And nothing can happen on a piece of property if the person that controls it doesn't want to do it.
That's a good point.
So I think sometimes people misunderstand that we can just place things in certain places. So you have to, it's a private transaction that has to happen. So we try to do that. But the big reason we supported this project, well, a number of reasons, is our local folks are going to be working on it. The economic return to our community is significant. A lot of those people, those folks buy trucks here, send their kids to school here, go to church here, buy clothes here, go out to eat here. And that's a lot of money rolling back through, and it's a great experience for them too. What's interesting about this is this was the first solar development ever permitted by the Sangamon County Board.
No way.
Yeah, so we didn't start with a 5-acre project.
Perfect.
Yeah, the first one we did was like the biggest one in the Midwest. Right?
Awesome. Just dive in head first. Why not?
Nobody had ever done one. And so we talk about like we're building this plane while we're flying it. Yeah, it's perfect. We were going through the process.
It'll be easy from here on out.
That's right. Everybody learned a lot about how it needs to work and everything else. So we're really excited about that one.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Another big project just got voted on last night. Just took a big step forward, is a new warehouse distribution center located at the Chatham Interchange on Interstate 55.
Okay.
I call it the frontage road because I grew up here, but it's called Palm Road.
Okay.
It's at the southwest corner of that intersection. Armbruster's has a facility there. There's an open parcel there just north of there. It's been zoned industrial since 1977.
Oh, wow.
We worked very closely with the city of Springfield on this. Matt McLaughlin's the project manager and director. Val Yazel, the OPED director on this. This is, we don't know for certain who the end tenant is. There's lots of speculation it's Frito-Lay, and it may be them, but the developer's not told us for certain who it is.
Sure.
But this will be a very large 250,000 square foot distribution center. Well, probably one of the largest ones that we'll have here. But this is a project that's going to bring other projects. Distribution centers and warehouses like the cluster.
Yes, absolutely.
If you drive to other larger metropolitan areas, you'll see clustering. And the reason they cluster there is they're all there for the same reason. access to interstates that are toll-free and congestion-free, a great workforce, right? Truck driving training at Lincoln Land Community College, we can get them the truck drivers that they need. A willing and accepting community that's going to do what they need to do to show the doors open here. We're going to work with you on that. Good building costs, all those kind of things. The biggest one people don't think about in Springfield is market reach. So you can reach over 90 million consumers in a one-day truck drive from Springfield.
Wow.
That's more than you can reach from Chicago, St. Louis, Nashville, Kansas City. So we actually have
all the good facts.
That's my job.
Yeah. No, that's
so
incredible.
We have a bigger market reach than Chicago does. And so when you think about let's say you have a product that has a shelf life. Every day that's on a truck and not on a shelf is a day it's not getting sold, right?
Right.
So market reach is important.
Yeah.
And COVID just accelerated or increased the importance of that in decision making. What we saw with supply chains and everything else. So I don't believe this will be our last warehousing distribution center. In fact, after the story of this distribution center started to end up in the media, I went to a site selection conference in Virginia Beach in June. And I thought, this is great. I got this shiny new thing to sell, right? Because they always want to know, site selection, what's going on in your community? And I'm like, I got this shiny new thing. I walk in there, and they're telling me about it.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So they watch this stuff.
Yeah.
And they know what's going on. And I mean, on one hand, I was going to be excited to tell the story.
Yeah.
It was better to say, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And, things like that. So
they want the juicy stuff that's still in discussion. That's what they want to know.
That's right. You're right. They want to know that everybody wants to know what nobody else knows.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's why rumors are so popular. Yeah,
that's the key. And then another one that's a project that I think is very important, doesn't get as much exposure, is the Pillsbury Mills redevelopment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's one that is really near and dear to my heart. I had family that worked there. I was here in Springfield when the mills shut down. Went over to Decatur. I loved my time in Decatur. I learned so much there. I mean, that was some really formative years in my career.
Sure.
One of the things I learned over there is how to help redevelop and clean up environmentally challenged properties. Decatur has a rich manufacturing history, but because of that and some long time ago businesses that weren't entirely responsible,
different challenges.
We had a lot of stuff to clean up.
Yeah.
So when it was announced I was coming back here, the Moving Pillsbury Forward groups, Tony Del Giorno, Chris Richmond, and Polly Hoskins, and I knew those individuals anyway, called me and said, we heard you're an expert on this. Well, sometimes being an expert is just knowing a little bit more than everybody else that's involved.
Yeah.
Like I'm not an
That's
expert,
true.
but I know experts, and I think I can help. And I went to my Growth Alliance board, my first board meeting, and they're like, what do you think we should start working on? I'm like, I think we need to help with this. And literally, one of my board members goes, are you crazy? I'm sure they're thinking, who'd we bring here? I'm like, let me explain why.
Yeah.
The economic impact of cleaning up this area is going to increase and improve the whole community.
Absolutely.
All the property values of it. I know there are developers that specialize in doing developments on sites like this.
Okay.
I also knew the site had very key things that developers want to see. Rail access.
Yep.
Robust electric access because of the plant that was there, robust natural gas supply, good industrial strength sewers and water supply. A lot of times you have to build that stuff out to a site. This site has it there.
That's an excellent point. Yeah.
And so we've been actively engaged. We have funded a lot of the environmental studies there. I'm on the board of Moving Pillsbury Forward.
Cool.
US EPA even sent in a specialist firm to talk about what are the redevelopment possibilities based on what the market is currently in your community. So the way that site is set up, it could accommodate a 250,000 square foot building there.
Wow.
Now, what would be in that building? Would it be like manufacturing, assembly, warehousing? We don't know. A lot of that's going to depend on the neighborhood too.
Sure.
Because this neighborhood has been dealing with this eyesore for so long.
Right.
We want to make sure they're also involved in what replaces it. So I would hate to be, we tore this plant down and we put something in there we liked even less, right?
Right.
That's not going to happen. We want to work with them and talk through that.
Yeah.
But you're going to see a lot of large-scale demolition that happen out there this fall.
Really?
They've assembled a tremendous amount of state, federal, and city money for this project, and we have enough money assembled now to do all the environmental remediation, and it's not excessive. It was a food plant, so there's not a lot of subsurface contamination. Frankly, most of the contamination that's in the soil was related to pest control because it was a food plant. So there's some remediation has to happen there, but it's not bad. Some asbestos in the buildings, that's taken out. There's enough funds to do all that, demolish all the structures. Then those silos, right, that are the signature, what you see when you think of Pillsbury. Those still look nice, and they're painted real nice. That's because it's asbestos paint, which is very good at lasting a long time, but not great to get rid of. So that has to be
You guys aren't just going to blow this thing up. And
that has to be scraped off and disposed of in a environmentally responsible manner, which it will be. But then we still, the only thing that the funding's not there yet is to actually take down the concrete silos.
Okay.
But we're not too far away from getting that. So we want to go ahead and start that other demolition there to just help the neighborhood, keep scrappers out. We have people that go on, still try to sneak in there and scrap and everything. So that's something I'm really, really proud of. And with the rail relocation project that's going through the city now, a big part of that is improvements on North Grand. So there's going to be an overpass that goes over all that rail infrastructure just east of Robin Roberts Stadium, right next to Pillsbury. So just think about Pillsbury getting cleaned up, Lanford High School redone. Robin Roberts Stadium is energized now with activity. We build that overpass along North Grand. That whole area gets cleaned up. Those are transformational things.
Absolutely.
Right? Maybe another bookmark in our community's history.
Right.
And what that will do for that community and really the whole north side of Springfield. So that's a lot of information. And
but it's excellent information.
No,
thank you for sharing it. I mean, the fact that you have the type of job where you get to kind of be bipartisan and just help all those projects come together has got to be so much fun and rewarding, I would think.
It is, and there's Springfield has a lot of politics in it, and every community does. And our job's not to get involved in that.
Right.
Our job is to listen to the policymakers, listen to the community, figure out what we can do to support their goals. We don't get involved in all the other things that go on. Which is important.
It sounds like you have a pretty optimistic outlook on where Springfield is headed and kind of our trajectory as a community.
Right.
That's true.
In my job now and the jobs I've had in the past, I think I have a fairly good sense of looking at a community and finding out where things are going. And I wouldn't have come back here if I didn't think there was unbelievable potential.
Sure.
So our best days of Springfield are ahead of us.
Love it.
And that's the attitude that we have to have. You have to get up every day not hoping to win, but expecting to win. Okay. I coached Little League for 17 years. I know. Why? But I did because my kids played. So. And it was recreational ball. It was not. We didn't do any of the competitive travel stuff. My kids got to have my genetics, so they're none of them are going to be professional athletes.
You just didn't want them picking dandelions. You wanted them to step above that.
I love baseball. I want to be involved. And I would, it wasn't unusual for parents to come up to me and say, "Hey, you're doing a good job as coach, but when are we going to start winning some games?" And I always said, when they show up expecting to win and not hoping to win, you're going to see a lot change. I said, so you got to make them confident. You have to keep expecting that we're going to be able to do great things. And I fully expect it's important to have a positive attitude. Self-talk is important. What you think becomes what you say, and what you say becomes what you do.
Absolutely.
And so as a community, we need to have positive self-talk about ourselves, because we have potential. We're the state capital. I mean, I can go through a number of facts that I already did to say that. Also, I believe we're a good market for industrial investment. We have about a 1.8% vacancy rate on industrial properties in our town.
Wow.
So when someone calls me and is looking for a warehouse, I don't have anything to show them. I can't sell out of an empty wagon. Right? And that shows investors that there's opportunity there. If we, and I wouldn't say that we're a strong spec market. Like, I don't think you're going to see someone come to town and throw up 1 million square feet like they do in Elwood, Illinois, or outside of Chicago and hope somebody rents it. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is we had the potential to attract development here. If somebody attracted hypothetically, a 250,000 square foot client, and they wanted to spec on another 50 or 100,000 square feet, could we fill it? I think we could be helpful in filling that. I think there's a demand. We get inquiries a lot about industrial properties here.
Good.
All of Central Illinois is right now.
Okay.
We're that secondary market. A lot of that went on in the industrial areas, and now they're looking at secondary markets, whether it's Springfield, Decatur, Champaign, Peoria, Bloomington. You're starting to see more activity, I think, in those areas. So I'm very optimistic. We have a very stable workforce here.
Right.
The kind of employers we have are very stable. I do want us to focus on diversifying some of our employment base. So we have been blessed with strong healthcare and state government, finance, insurance, technology. So we're lucky to have those good foundational ones, but we also want to make sure we're blending in some other things. So whether that's warehousing, manufacturing, other types of activities.
That's a good point.
Because the global, the economy is global, nowadays.
Yeah.
And so that's great, but there could be a global economic crisis somewhere that's a long way from Springfield that could cause an impact on any of one of those industries. So you want to diversify your employment,
right?
So you can ride out. It's more level and not so many peaks and valleys.
Right.
I'm very optimistic about that. I believe we have local leadership, local political leadership here that is supportive. They're very supportive of the Growth Alliance. We have business leadership here that is very supportive of it too, and you have a great quality of life here.
Absolutely.
Good cost of living, great schools, a interesting, diverse supply of school opportunities for your kids.
Yep.
Like I have 3 kids. Where they go to school means a lot.
Absolutely.
And whether you want to go to a large public school and have that experience, or a smaller private school, or a more rural school, you can pick and choose that and still have a career here and all those things. So
and you're right. You don't necessarily have that ability in some other cities our size or larger, really.
Yeah.
So that's a good.
I mean, the cities that are potentially stealing our kids away, right, to go work in their cities, it costs so much money to live there. When you're talking about an apartment. Right. Forget about buying a house. I mean, that's not a thing anymore, right? So renting an apartment and then all the other costs, transportation and things like that. And then you can come to Springfield. You can have an affordable place to live. You can have all the amenities of a decent sized community. I mean, it is very appealing compared to some of these big things. And I think after COVID and things, the allure of some of these big cities, like, oh, I can stay where my parents live and still work for these big companies that are in the big. That's fantastic. I can be with all the people I went to high school with, or
go to my favorite restaurant still.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's a huge thing, also.
That's right. And word of mouth is a very valuable way of selling. I mean, you guys like referrals in your business, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so people sometimes ask me, what can we do to help? I'm like, if you meet somebody from some other town, tell them how great things are here. And ask them to move here. I ask people all the time,
Right.
I think it was Mike Ailey, though, told me one time, obviously he knows a little bit about sales, and he said, if you don't ASK, you don't GET. So
that's an excellent point.
So I just tell people, you should move here. And, do they say yes automatically? No.
Right.
But you make them think about it.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to say, hey, you should come in. And the other word of mouth thing that's very important in economic development is what I call mining the value chain. Right? So you have a business, and that business has a value chain. Businesses they buy from, and businesses they sell to. And so that business can be an effective tool in economic development if they call and say, hey, I have this supplier that I think is looking for a place to locate a facility.
Right.
Can I connect you with them? That would be awesome.
Right.
Or I have a customer, and sometimes the business likes that supplier being a little bit closer.
Yeah. And
so we can kind of mine that value chain of the industries that are here too.
That's really cool. I didn't even think about that.
Those are all things that can help grow the community. So
one thing you mentioned earlier that is very important, and it seems like Springfield has the problem of complaining about all the stuff that's going on or not going on. Like, Springfield loves to complain about those things. But you talked about changing that dynamic to make it more of a positive outlook. I hope that it sounds like the projects that you're working on now, just the 3 big ones that you talked about, especially the Shields Park, I think has a good potential for changing people. Their outlook. I mean, people were complaining, like, what do we need soccer fields for? Like, they don't even realize that's just like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
All the
and
stuff
some folks
that's
definitely think there is just going to be soccer fields in the middle of the field.
Exactly.
Not understanding. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
The sports complex project is a great example of that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I failed to mention when I talked about everything that went into developing that is the school district 186 did an outstanding thing. They when the developer and all of us went to them and said, we want you to abate the taxes, they were like, well, we might want something too, right? That's fair.
Sure.
That's how business gets done.
Yeah.
And so they knew that they either had to spend money to improve athletic facilities at their locations, primarily middle school, but maybe there's an opportunity to partner with the sports complex. So District 186 students are going to be utilizing these facilities in exchange for that property tax abatement.
Yeah,
perfect.
And so also the school district doesn't have to worry about maintaining a new facility. And when families look to locate or put their kids in certain schools, to some families the athletic facilities are a key factor in their decision making.
You're right.
Absolutely.
That's another step forward. So you will. I'm really excited to see the District 186 students out there at the sports complex.
Yeah.
It's a very unique arrangement.
Yeah.
To get that done. So you're absolutely right. And having a positive self-talk doesn't mean you have to be delusional.
Right.
We have things here to work on.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. We do that. We do have things to work on, and we will keep working on those. But let's acknowledge there's a lot of really good things.
Yeah, and a lot of it seems very deeply rooted in just the passion of people, especially that are from here or have lived here for a long period of time and made it home. Like, there's just a lot of passion about Springfield, good or bad.
Right.
So sometimes it gets caught in the weeds and forgotten that there's a lot of good going on when things are trending negatively for a short period of time. But I always feel like it's always coming from a place of passion or love for Springfield. I mean,
it is.
I definitely annoyed coworkers when I've lived in other cities talking to them about Springfield. They're like, I don't care. I don't care that they make Bun coffee makers there. I don't want to hear it anymore. But I think that's where a lot of it comes from, which in turn is a good thing, because if we start trending in a positive direction, it'll steamroll, it'll snowball into really good things.
Well, there was a lot of pride in Springfield at one time. And I think, we had Alice Chalmers, and we had, of course, Bun, which we still do, but we had a lot of big industry, Honeywell, some of those things were all made here, and there were jobs here for those things. And then it seemed like those things started kind of going away, and you hear people talking about, oh, I used to do this. Oh, I retired from that company. I'm like, that company was here? And it kind of just became, like you said, it was like a state of Illinois work center. And then Memorial and St. John's have just grown, right? And Springfield Clinic, right? And we've got a great medical district here now. So that's a positive thing. But now it's like, husband and wife, where do you guys work? Oh, we either all work for a hospital or we work for the state, or you know what I mean? Yeah. And then everybody else supports those things, which is fine. But having the other industries come back and have some things that we can really say, that place is in Springfield, Illinois, and that's where I work, and that's why we brought these people into town, and this other business came along, or my electrical company was small and now we're very big because we have all these extra contracts and things like that. So look forward to those types of things.
It is, and I think it's one of the things to think about is if you've studied economics or had to take an economics class, you learn about globalization.
Yep.
And globalization really took off in the 70s and 80s. And so that's when we saw some of that industry kind of peel away from Springfield.
Yep.
And it's easy to think that only happened here.
Right.
But when you study it, you find out it didn't only happen here. It happened across the entire country. And it's trying to come back.
Yep.
So yes, we did lose some of those things. But the Midwest is uniquely positioned to take advantage of reshoring. So there are large companies that moved operations, overseas to a lot of places. In my work of talking to site selectors, some site selectors specialize in working with foreign companies that want to make investments in the United States.
Oh, okay.
And I talk to them a lot because the Midwest, once again, has incredible market reach. The other thing the Midwest has is we have access to more potable water than other places in the country.
Really?
And if you think about a manufacturer, they use a lot of at least one of these three things: the water, electric, or natural gas, and sometimes more than one of them. Right? That's an advantage here. Illinois is a deregulated state for utility purchasing, which means If you're, say, for example, in Ameren territory, you decide who you buy your electricity from.
Sure.
They transport it and distribute it. Ameren doesn't produce power in Illinois, right?
Right.
So since our state's deregulated, you're buying that power at a commodity price. And so that gives it a big advantage. And if you're a manufacturer that uses a lot of electricity, if a couple cents, a cent or two, is a huge factor in cost driving.
Right.
Now, and the other reason companies are looking to reshore into the United States is the utility rates, especially in Europe, have just skyrocketed in the last few years.
Okay.
So they are multiple times higher than what we have here. That's a big opportunity for us if we get out and sell that. Now, we have to make sure that we keep a global attitude, right? There are some polarizing politics going on right now around the country. It's not a Springfield thing, but around the country, where we don't want any business from country A, B, or C to make investments here.
Sure.
Okay. There's a cause and effect to that, right? When you make a decision like that, these things are all interrelated.
Yep.
So we need to be open to those opportunities. And foreign direct investments happening in central Illinois. So when I was in Decatur, we worked with a company called Fuyao Glass out of China.
Yeah.
They have like 60 or 70% of the auto glass market in China. We had a PPG facility just outside Decatur that was close to closing, that made flat glass for like residential commercial purposes. And one day I got a call from the plant manager and says, "Hey, I need you and the mayor out here at noon for a press conference." I'm like, I've been invited to these before. And so I was expecting the worst.
Right.
And we go to this press conference, and Chairman Cho from Fuyao Glass walks in and says, "I just bought this factory, and I'm going to spend $250 million to renovate it into making automobile glass, and I'm going to hire all your local contractors, and we're going to renegotiate the union contract." They had about 25 employees when that happened. I think they're up to over 200 now.
Wow, that's great.
And when I drove by there during that renovation, the trucks that were parked in there doing the renovation were our contractors.
Man.
So,
That's cool.
I mean, those are the kind of opportunities. So that's not bringing people from other countries to take our jobs, which could be, it's easy to think that.
Yeah.
But they're employing our folks there.
Right. In that instance, the top dollars that are going up to the executive level of that company theoretically are going to other countries. But I mean, the positive impacts from all the other economic development, that makes perfect sense, could theoretically outweigh it.
That's right. And there's been other investments, companies in Germany and Austria, in China and France. We've seen all those kind of investments across central Illinois. So we have to be open-minded community from that. But the Midwest is uniquely advantaged to attract foreign direct investment.
That's good to know.
Here, and that's going to help bring back some of those things that you talked about. We also have to be open to what it means to have industry in your town.
Yeah.
And what that means is it can be noisy.
Yeah.
And sometimes it makes odors and all those things. And we would never try to plug one of these things into an area that's not appropriate.
Right.
But we have to be open to those things. We have to, as a community, say we understand that's going to happen. And I believe we can get there. We have to be deliberate about explaining what the benefits are, too.
Right.
You can't just expect people to take it. They have to understand that. So
right.
I agree. There's opportunity here to bring those things back. Just have to get out and sell, and that's what we're doing, which is good.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it. One thing that I want to plug that I love that you guys do, and I think it should be done in more cities, is you briefly mentioned the Thrive Ally program, which is, and correct me if I'm wrong, a roster of people that are here locally that if somebody's moving here or thinking about moving here, they basically have access to these folks that they can call them, text them, email them, whatever, and have a Springfield mentor, if you will, show them around, or a travel guide, if you will. That is a very cool program. So if you briefly tell us a little bit more about it, maybe, and how people can get involved with it, because I think it's awesome. So
Thrive and SPI is our community marketing campaign where we market the community, and part of that is the Thrive Ally program. And allies are individuals who have said, "Hey, I'm going to step up. I'll be ambassador or ally for the community." They register with us, and they tell a little bit about themselves. They talk about things that they are passionate about or well connected in the community, and then they decide how they want to be contacted.
Okay.
So you might say, I want email or phone or LinkedIn or Instagram, and I don't know all of them, but They decide they decide how MySpace they decide how to they want to be contacted, and they'll list a few things like you might say, look, I'm well connected in the running community, the arts community, and I'm also of a religion, whatever that religion is, and I'm very active in that too.
Yep.
And what happens is if somebody new comes to town, obviously they have a workplace, but there's just some things about yourself that you don't want to talk about people you work with.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're looking for a church, or you're looking for a doctor or a dentist or whatever, right?
Yep.
And so they can reach out to these allies, and that person's going to help connect them. So that's important to make them feel welcome. It's also important to make them what I call sticky.
Yes.
It's harder to get someone to leave a community when they have strong personal relationships.
Yep. Absolutely.
So when they get that call from that recruiter, saying, hey, we got a great job in Indianapolis, we want them to think, yeah, that would be more money, but I got to find a new church, I got to find new friends, I have to start a new running club, my kids are in good schools, I don't want to do all that, I'm going to stay here. And so it develops those strong interpersonal bonds that transcend across just a job. And so it's really, really important. And plus, it's a group of people that just feel great about the community and help spread the good news. So we really appreciate our allies and what they do, and there's always room for more.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to sign up. I've done it before. You get a sweet T-shirt. So
that's like, right. Sign up on the website. It's one of the softest T-shirts I have.
Yeah, no, it's a good one.
That's because the marketing person picked them out, not the budget person.
Smart. I'm sensing a theme here.
Sign up on our website. We'll send you some information to fill out. Send us a picture. We'll send you a T-shirt. Nice. We do events throughout the years. You guys are coming to one probably here later in July.
Oh yeah.
And it's a good thing.
Kind of the best one of the year.
Oh yeah. It's a blast. It's a blast. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. It's a fun one. So, but yeah, that's a great program, and there's just lots of ways people can help if they want to.
Awesome. What are some other ways that people can support you? I know you talked about it briefly earlier, but some other ways they can kind of follow what you guys are working on and support if they are able to.
Right. So our website's thriveandspi.org.
Okay.
Also on there you can get a link to our YouTube channel, and we do a lot of what we call hype videos. But we of course we have about a 30-minute long video that talks, about 10-minute long video that talks in detail about the business community. But then we have shorter, like 90-second or 2-minute videos that drill down into individual industries, healthcare, information technology. We talk about the education system. We talk about the history of Springfield. And so you can watch those. You can share those out on social media.
Cool.
Also, if you're part of a group that you think could benefit from knowing more about us, we do a lot of public speaking events. Might be at service clubs and other places. We can come out and talk to folks. We can bring information out.
Podcasts.
Podcasts. Yeah. We could, let's say you were an employer and you wanted your employees to know about the Ally program. We've done things where we've gone into their staff meeting and said, hey, just 5 or 10 minutes, this is the Ally program. Cool. Here's some T-shirts. Just sign up to do that. They can help that way. Introduce us to their suppliers and their customers. There you go. If they want them to try to locate here, that's something that they definitely can do. A lot of it is, I had a high school basketball coach that would say, McCrady, you need to be tough between the ears. In other words, don't let people get into your head, right? So having that positive mindset, and the best that you can, acknowledging we have problems to work on by being tough between the ears.
I like it.
About being positive about your community it's a huge thing.
It is.
Yep.
It's not something we can put on paper. It's kind of hard to measure. And
it's free.
It's free, and it matters a lot because these site selectors that I talk about, if I have one come into town and they say we're going to be there on Wednesday, I know they show up on Monday or Tuesday. And they go around town, they go out to eat, they talk to the wait staff, they talk to the clerk at the grocery store. They know what I'm going to tell them. This is the best place in the world that you could be.
Right.
So I have to market internally and improve the self-talk so when they talk to another person. So you never know who you're influencing right now. So
it's a great point.
We all have bad days and bad things happen. Unfortunately, they do. But for the most part, let's try to be positive. Let's try to be kind of tough between the ears.
I love that.
Yep.
I love it. I also learned today that I missed my calling as a site selector.
You can do it. I got sites to show you.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
I think we should call this our bookmark episode.
There
you go.
We'll be like, remember the episode where right before
Yeah.
Pillsbury was done
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
Legacy Park was done?
Yeah, and Ryan told us to stop being so negative and start
No,
smiling more.
no, you guys are you guys
Just
are great. I also love the Rise group.
Thank you.
In Springfield.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And I hear from our employers that they're excited that it exists.
That's
too.
cool.
Yeah.
Love
So
that.
you guys are doing great work with that.
Thank you.
And it's really, really helpful.
Appreciate
to
that.
see that. And man, when I speak to that group, that group's full of energy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's 6 or 7 a.m.
Yeah.
They show up
They
ready to
have
go.
too much energy for me now already.
Well, the young professionals that came out of nowhere, it seemed like,
Right.
It's like, oh, all these young people work
Yeah.
for these great companies.
It's like
That's-
a Viking horn. Like everybody meet up. We're all out here somewhere hiding.
That was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's been great, and we appreciate you doing that.
Yeah,
It
I
makes a
love
big
it.
difference in the community. So
I love it. I love it for sure. Well, speaking of that, I've loved this. This has been a lot of fun.
Yep.
Well,
Thank you for coming on. We
thanks
really
for having me
appreciate
into the
it.
vault, and I'm glad I don't have to set the timer when I leave. We're telling stories about that working in banking, right?
Oh yeah.
I would. The first time I did that myself, I woke up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat because I had a dream that I said it wrong.
I have had that same dream before. Surprisingly, you probably have too.
I don't know about the dream. I've had the nightmare.
Yeah.
I've said it wrong a few times.
Man.
You wake up and you go to the bank and you do the timer and the combination and nothing happens. You can't get it to open. You're like, what's going on? And I've had it most of the time. It was only like because we set it like an hour off from like daylight savings or something.
Right,
it's like,
right.
okay, an hour we can get by with just the cash in our
Right.
drawers or something like that.
That's right,
But,
yeah.
Scary.
Little behind the scenes there
Yeah.
for everybody.
Oh
so.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for all you're doing for the community. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
So, yep.
Sweet.
All right.
I think I worked for you one of the times you forgot to do it. I think I remember us sitting there at 8:30, just waiting for that thing to get.
The Vault, where Central Illinois' best kept stories are held.